everyone, I'm Xinyi. Welcome to the online presentation of my graduation project, Driver-Centered Human-Machine Interface Design for a Better Level 4 Takeover Experience, which relate to several topics: human-machine interface design, user or driver-centered design, as well as design for autonomous driving experience. This presentation contains 7 parts. With these 7 parts, I'm going to show you a glance at how the autonomous driving would be like in the coming 5 to 10 years, and also how I tackle this design challenge. So first of all, the initial research questions are: when is it needed for the automation to communicate with drivers? What kind of information to communicate? And how to communicate the information with the driver during takeover, and how to enhance driver situation awareness. The project follows double diamond design process, which is discover, define, develop, and deliver. The first diamond is research phase, including literature study, user research, and expert interview, as well as in the end, all the insights were concluded into a journey map. At the outside of the project, there was not yet a very narrowed down mission or very specific goal, as the mediator group were still settling down the user cases. So without pre-knowledge about autonomous driving, I therefore firstly dive into the literature world to study about the autonomous driving, and later moved towards more specifically on takeover transition. So the literature study was conducted in 4 aspects: autonomous driving, HMI, situation awareness, and the takeover transition. As Mary stated, that the future mobility is 0 crashes, 0 emission, and 0 fatalities. So we see a wholesale shift towards autonomous and electric vehicles. So it would not just reshape the entire transportation industry, but also everyone's daily life. But why autonomous driving is the future? According to the data from WHO, nearly 1 million people die in road crashes each year. So automated vehicles will be able to avoid all crashes and eliminate traffic fatalities. And also, since automated vehicles will be battery powered, it would help reduce air pollution caused by car emission. Traffic congestions will no longer be a problem, since the car will be connected to the internet. And connected car can communicate with each other more freely and more flexible. The automated cars are defined into different levels by SAE, from level 0, no automation, to level 5, full automation. This graduation project initially focusing on high level of automation, which is level 3 and level 4. The difference between level 3 and level 4 is that while automated driving, level 3 requires human supervision. However, level 4 automation will work as fallback and does not require human supervision. And how far away? Level 2 automation is no longer a news. In 2018, Audi enabled level 3 functions in the car. However, till now, it cannot be used due to the federal regulations. Recently, at the end of 2019, Audi, the pioneer of level 3, announced to skip level 3 and focusing on level 2 and level 4. What would driver normally do during automated driving? According to research, the most preferred activity during automated driving is using mobile devices. There are mainly 3 different modalities in automotive HMI: visual, audio, and haptic. Visual messages take longer time to be noticed, but it can convey more complex information. Auditory messages require less cognitive efforts, but can only convey very limited information. and it is the same as haptic. So for the third part, I looked into what is the takeover transition. Takeover transition means that the transfer of control between driver and automation or the vehicle. The project is focusing on the scenario that driver takes over control from the vehicle. In addition, different driver states at the moment result in different takeover time or takeover budget. The more immersed the driver is in secondary tasks, the longer time it would take. For instance, when driver is immersed in secondary tasks for more than 30 minutes, then the takeover budget will be 5 minutes or even 10 minutes. However, there are many factors that affect takeover performance. One of the most important factors is driver situational awareness. What is situational awareness? If we put it in a simple way, it means that driver being aware of what's going on around him or her. However, while automated driving, due to the fact that human is never good at monitoring, driver situational awareness is always quite low. And low situational awareness leads to several problems. Firstly, human driver with low situational awareness is hardly aware of the obstacles around and not prepared to perform actions correctly. Secondly, low situational awareness leads to a poor decision making and thus longer time to take over. Thirdly, low situational awareness results in reduced predictability, which causes distrust in the system and ultimately result in poor user experience. So literature study really helps me to have a deeper understanding about the topic takeover during automated driving, about HMI, about the cars, different state, drivers different state, etc. It helps me to narrow down the project scope and have more specific directions for later user research. For user research, since there are no level 3 or level 4 automated vehicles in the market, I decided to have a look into how autopilot users experience level 2 automation system, what kind of problems they met, as well as their expectations on the automation system. So in total, I collected 28 responses from autopilot users. According to the result from user research, initially their motivation to choose autopilot is because its safety, ease of use, hands-free driving, as well as they perceive its future possibility. On the other hand, there are many aspects that could be improved. Firstly, driver usually get surprised by vehicle sudden actions. For example, autopilot brakes without warning, either too early or too strong. Also, at that moment, sometimes driver did not see explicit reasons for that. Secondly, easy disengagement from the driving task leads to low situational awareness. As shown in the graph, drivers rated themselves as less concentrated on driving tasks while using autopilot compared to manual drive. And sometimes the vehicle decision can conflict with driver's intention. Lastly, passengers can get anxious quite easily. One Tesla driver noted that he mean the passengers here, tend to shout at me when the car refused to change lane. After collecting insights from users' perspective, as well as literature study, there was one thing still missing, that's insights from experts' perspective. Therefore, I interviewed 4 specialists who has years of experience in the automated driving domain. So many of them stated that level 3 takeover is risky and controversial. And in the community, actually nobody can say where the future brings us to. Secondly, it is risky to give back control to the driver when he or she is not fit at that moment. And thirdly, another specialist noted that giving sufficient time for takeover is critical. Last but not least, the community see the takeover going more towards a planned takeover instead of an unexpected takeover. After reaching the end of the research phase, all the insights were later concluded into a journey map to have a clear overview of the pain points as well as opportunities in the takeover journey. So, in conclusion, during automated driving, the automation system is not transparent enough and lacks intervention when needed. It is not effective in bringing drivers safely back to the loop and risky to give back control when the driver is not fit. Therefore, the automation system or the HMI should be understandable, effective, and supportive. Which leads to the design goal as design an understandable, supportive, and effective HMI to improve drivers' takeover performance during continuous highway in level 4. I choose level 4 is because I see level 4 planned takeover as a more promising future trend instead of level 3. And the scenario for it is where the driver are long out of a loop. Various of design guidelines are also proposed. So before we have looked into how I tackle this design challenge, let's first watch a video that demonstrates my final design. From this video, I'm going to show how I envision the future takeover experience with an understandable, supportive, and effective HMI. Let's forget about your current driving experience and dive into the world of 2025. Tim is on his way from Amsterdam to Delft and sitting on a level 4 automated car. The car is fully controlled by the automation and drives autonomously. Tim can use the time to play, work, read, or watch a movie depending on how long the automation mode is. During automated driving, Tim is free to do whatever he likes. Meanwhile, the automation on the head-up display gives clear information on what the automation is doing and thinking, as well as the future intentions, for example, the next maneuvers. It adds to the transparency of the automation system. After car drives autonomously for 30 minutes, and also after Tim the secondary task for 30 minutes, the car is approaching the exit or its operational design domain. The car or the automation detects that Tim's attention is on his phone, so it gives direct wake-up notification to Tim's phone. Meanwhile, the ambient light on two sides of the windshield also gives Tim wake-up lighting. Tim is woken up by the automation system, and he puts down the phone and started to pay attention to the driving task. After woken up by the system, the automation guides Tim to get prepared step by step. Stand by and get prepared. Check road condition and regain situational awareness. Stand by for takeover. Takeover request comes right after Tim gets prepared. Just simply put the two hands on the steering wheel. Then successfully resume human control. This is how we envision the future takeover experience in the level 4 non-auto-loop scenario. It ensures mutual understanding between driver and the system, communicates effectively with the driver, supports drivers safely back to the loop. As shown in the final design, there are two main phases during the journey, which are automated driving and manual drive. Behind, there are 5 subphases. The driver conducts secondary tasks, wake up call to wake up driver from secondary tasks, get prepared with guidance from the HMI, and takeover request, and last but not least, resume control. The detection loop detects driver's action and works as a bridge to connect each steps. So, how did I get there? This gives an overview of the iterative design process. So firstly, 3 initial concepts came out of ideas from creative session. According to the insights from the evaluation with the mediator group, first design was proposed. Then 3 iterations were conducted with offline and online user tests, which in the end leads to the final design. And the C-box method is used to conclude the ideas came out of the creative session. And then 3 concepts were proposed and evaluated with the mediator group. And in the first user test, and at that moment the chrono crisis was not there yet, so luckily I could do the test offline in the car as shown in the picture. It includes 3 parts. The first part is participants sitting in the car playing Angry Bird while automated driving, and the second part, wake up call and the takeover request. The goal is to test the understandability of the head-up display, wake up light, and the effectiveness of wake up call and takeover request. So the second user test has to switch to online, unfortunately, and the focus is on the understandability of step-by-step guidance. Lastly, the final online evaluation was aiming to test whether the design goal is achieved and how the system's usability. So how exactly did the design iterate along with the user test? For the first stage of the journey, the goal is that while automated driving, the system should be understandable. However, in the first user test, participants think the information on the head-up display is not very understandable but a bit confusing, due to the cars around are too similar in the simulation. So other cars are all grayscaled in the second iteration to distinct them from driver's car. It is validated as understandable, but participants, they said they only expect the most essential information showing on the head-up display, otherwise it might interfere with other stuff. So in the third iteration, the less essential information was omitted, and the bar showing estimated time of arrival is integrated with automation mode into one part on the right side of the head-up display. For the second stage, which is wake-up call, the goal is that it should be clear and effective in dragging driver out of the secondary tasks. So in the first user test, the wake-up light signals are quite effective, but what if driver does not respond to the wake-up call? In the second iteration, first of all, notifications is provided to where the driver's attention is, which is regarded as effective and clear. Meanwhile, providing wake-up call through ambient light. However, if the eye tracker detects that the driver does not respond, then the wake-up call will be upgraded. So as shown in the video, the color will gradually change into orange from tint, and it will give extra notification through audio and vibration. However, the wake-up call is regarded as less effective, especially the lighting, and compared with the offline user test, and mainly because of it cannot give those kind of change of light or the real interactions. The third part is step-by-step guidance, which is aiming to be supportive and help driver get prepared and ultimately get fit for takeover. In the first iteration, there is no step-by-step guidance in between wake-up call and takeover. The test shows that firstly, driver find it hard to remain attentive during this period of time. Most drivers in the test took over without prior preparation or checking, but put on the game 1 second before takeover. Therefore, in the second iteration, step-by-step guidance is included. It is proved to be supportive and guided, and drivers are willing to follow the guidance. But some said there are too many steps and too much information, and some of them can be conveyed in a more intuitive way. Therefore, steps in the final iteration are minimalized into only 3 steps in total. Other information will be provided in a more intuitive way, and for instance, to give vibration to driver's seat, to inform driver to back to the driving position more intuitively. Last phase is takeover request, which is aiming to be effective and clear. In the first iteration, as mentioned above, driver took over without prior preparation, which is quite risky. In addition, affirmative of control is missing too. Therefore, a more clear and effective takeover request through visual audio modalities is proposed in second iteration. And it's quite clear and effective in conveying takeover request. However, though the deactivation process is quite short, but still some participants expect to have more feedback on the deactivation process. In the third iteration, a deactivation process is shown on the steering wheel, as you can see on the video. And it is validated as effective and clear. So how does driver situational awareness change and enhanced by the design? The blue line shows how driver situational awareness change without the wake up call, they get prepared and steps. And the yellow line shows that the situation awareness without the get prepared step, driver can hardly remain attentive, therefore its situational awareness just drops after being woken up for a while. And the red line shows how driver's situational awareness change with the final design. So we can see from this graph how the final design with these steps enhance the driver's situational awareness and thus enhance the takeover performance. In the final evaluation, the design was evaluated with specialists and potential users using the system usability scale, and it is validated as good in terms of usability. So this is how I envision the future takeover experience in the level 4 long out-of-loop scenario. It ensures mutual understanding between driver and automation, communicates effectively with the driver, and supports driver safely back to the loop. So looking back to the project, when dealing with a topic that requires quite a lot of technical knowledge or background, besides conducting massive literature study and user study, from my experience, talking to specialists who already has years of experience in this domain could really boost your project and help you have less detour. Moreover, user test really matters. It's a pity that I was not able to do a final offline test as planned, but from the user test that I conducted, there are already many insights I would never get without testing with users. And some interesting point that I discovered during the project is, first of all, the ethical issue. since in the future car will be equipped with cars or eye trackers or other equipments inside the car. Many participants expressed their concerns and even worry about it. And in addition, on many occasions, driver is not driving alone but with passengers. So how passengers experience the automated car also influence the driver's experience. Therefore, it would be interesting and valuable to consider the passengers too. Last but not least, I want to express my sincere thanks to my supervisor team, mediators, all the participants, and everyone who provided help during this project. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to ask me during the online graduation ceremony, and see you there.